can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it.
And here we go. Jim Moore, how are you, buddy? Good to see you here on this Monday, a little rainy Monday. You look great, refreshed. Looks like you didn't go hard in Pullman, my friend. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
Yeah, I was a little buzzed Friday night, but no, we left Saturday afternoon, came back to Bend, and had a 2-hour hike with my dogs this morning, and I'm refreshed and ready to go, Puck, because we're 4-0. We're 4-0, and they're giving us 8.5. They're giving Johnny football 8.5 points at Boise. I'm taking the points. I just bet another $100 on the Cougs.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you would actually take the points. Yeah, that stuns me. That stuns me that you would take the points.
Come on, would you jump on board, please?
I'm not going to bet on them. I've told you, not betting on them.
I know, but
never gonna bet on them. Ever gonna happen.
No, when we get points, let's say we lose on a field goal in overtime, then you kind of win a little bit, right? Come on.
Never gonna do it. Do you realize hey, audience, we're gonna get to the show just for a quick second here, okay? Hold on, let me just make sure I've got it. You wanna?
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, I was going to pay you a compliment.
Do you think I should play that for you sometimes? I should play that for you, but I don't have that sound.
You wouldn't know how to do it. You don't know how to do anything. So, no, I don't, no.
I don't. I had a hell of a time getting Fubo yesterday. Mikey changed the password on us. And I was trying to find the login to put the password back in. I couldn't do it. Kathy had to get up and help me.
Shocker.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was going to pay you a compliment that for that Friday night game that lasted past midnight that you were able to stay up.
Yeah, there we go again. Right off the bat, before we get the win back lumber, let's get the old shot in there.
It's amazing someone your age can stay up past.
And then this is when I make a comeback, then I make a fat joke or something.
It's not going to hurt my feelings. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Ever. What all did you eat?
What all did you eat this weekend? You get a blizzard with extra hot fudge, or what'd you get?
No, I ate some cookie dough last night. That was good.
Just straight cookie dough?
Yeah, I mean, the teenager made chocolate chip cookies, and I'll contend this, and I think most people agree with this. The cookie dough of making the chocolate chip cookies is 100 times better than the cookies, and it's not even close.
I wouldn't say 100. Well, no, I would agree with you that it's better, but not 100 times.
It's pretty right.
Not 100 times. When they come fresh out of the oven and the chocolate chips are melted in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's tough to beat that.
Something about the cookie dough. Jim, we got a lot to cover today. We got a Seahawks win. We got to talk about your dad's weekend. Sorry, parents' weekend. The Mariners still on life support. Chaos in the NFC West. I want you to look at that last little tidbit on the very bottom of the rundown. You see what that says, Jim?
Yeah, it says Tim Boom coming on at 10:40. Tim Boom?
On the rundown, you moron, not the ticker.
I can't see that whole thing.
Can you not see anything?
It says sloppy, but a win.
Yeah.
Weekend.
Do you need your eyes checked?
Weekend with Ian?
Does your eyes,
no,
do your
I don't
eyes
need
to be checked?
I can't. No, it cuts off over there. I can't get the whole thing.
The PuckSports app is now available. All you got to do is go to the App Store, download the PuckSports app, and away you go. And you say, well, wait a minute, I just listen on Apple and Spotify. When I don't catch you guys live, I watch you on YouTube. Yes, absolutely. And I would, if that's how you want to do it, and that's how you want to continue to, if you missed the show live, you want to go back and watch it on YouTube, fine, great. You want to go back and listen on Apple and Spotify, Amazon, whatever, great. But the best thing about the brand new PuckSports app, God, I can't talk today. Have you noticed that?
What'd you say, the PuckSports app?
Yeah, I really cannot talk today. Am I having a stroke? I'm having a stroke. I really can't. God, I can't spit anything out today.
Well, maybe you had a tough weekend.
I know. No, great weekend. Great. Well, no sleep. But other than that, great weekend. The best thing with the Puck Sports app is you can listen to this show now live on the app. So when you're driving around, you can't watch us, and you just want to listen to us. If you're driving around in your car, it will be in the Apple CarPlay store. It's in the, again, the App Store. You can listen to us on the move, on the go. It's like the iHeartRadio app, but better, because you know what you're not going to get on this app? You know what you're not going to get is some boring fucking podcast from Dwayne Wade or Cassidy Hubbard in the Philippines and basketball. That's what you're not going to get. You're going to get us and not, hi, this is Dwayne Wade. Come with me on my journey as I talk with all the pioneers in sports. I'm Cassidy Hubbard.
I thought you were
Can
gonna
I
go
tell you
straight-
about my love affair with basketball in the Philippines? No,
I thought you were going to go straight into trashing on Chuck and Bucky or something.
No.
I thought you were going to do that.
I don't do that. I love
And
that. Come on.
okay. Do you know how much I love Hugh Millen? Do you know how much I love him?
Yeah.
I love Hugh Millen. I
Okay.
do. I love Hugh. And then there's a but coming. But boy, sometimes when he's doing that, you know, the Monday morning breakdown, like when I was listening today, you know what I did? I listened to Hugh for a while talking about the Seahawks game. And then I switched to Donna Summer singing MacArthur Park.
Okay.
And I appreciated Donna Summer a lot more. Get that music ready. Go ahead.
Cool.
Get it again.
Cool. Can we get back to the launch of the Puck Sports mobile app and not talk about Hugh's appearance on our former radio station? I don't know. Maybe that would be a better thing to talk about than, hey, let's promote Hugh's appearance on the former station.
You asshole. You're talking about the
Jesus.
Philippines. You're talking about the Philippines and
almighty.
Dwayne Wade. I mean, you're giving me shit. You're going off topic. You always go off on the. You know what? It's okay because you're the host of the whole fucking thing. PuckSports.com, everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's bow down to the fucking host, okay?
Yeah,
you go off on tangents, and it's okay to go off on tangents because you always think they're interesting and amusing. I go off on a tangent. It's like, oh, come on, man, bring it back.
Yeah,
that's
because
not
that
fair.
my story had something to do with the program, not your story that had nothing to do with anything.
Yes, it did. People know Hugh Millen. They know Donna Summer. Donna Summer's God. I miss Donna Summer.
I don't think there's anybody that knows who Donna.
People
Summer
know
is.
Donna Summer. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're at least 40 years old.
Anyway,
okay.
it's there. It will be there now. It may take a second for it to refresh and to get there, like on whatever your platform is. But the Puck Sports mobile app will be up, available, and it'll be as soon. Okay. Do you want anything more about Hugh? Hugh will not be on the Puck Sports mobile app.
No, I want to know who we can thank for getting the app going. It's your friend, right?
Yeah. Well, not a friend. I've never met him before, but he's become my friend now. Jacob, shout out to Jacob. Great guy. He's been working hard with it. If it doesn't appear in your app store right now, it will be up there very, very shortly. All right. But yeah, Jacob, big thanks to Jacob for getting that app up and running. Appreciate it. We'll send out a link. I'll send out a link here momentarily to all of our listeners. In fact, I can just do it right now. As you want to talk more about Hugh, we can get to it if you'd like, or what would you like?
No, he broke it down really well.
Yeah.
He broke it down so well that I changed the channel.
Did
finally.
you?
Yeah, I did. But keep in mind, I love him. Okay.
I know you do.
I do.
I know you do.
I do.
You want to go? Before I want to get to the Seahawks, I need to know Dad's weekend. How was it?
It was great. It was short. We ended up leaving Saturday afternoon to come back to Bend because we had a concert to work tomorrow night or last night. And Kathy hasn't been feeling well. She had COVID, and so it's kind of been lingering. So we came back, but no, we had a really good time. We stopped in Colfax at the Dismores. And is it okay to buy your kids alcohol? Let's throw that out there.
Well, obviously the answer is going to be yes because you did. So,
I mean, I'm not so sure if that's okay to buy your kids booze.
Sure. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And so, we showed up at Stevie's apartment. Of course, we got there about 5:00, kickoff at 7:00. So they were already, getting after it. But so I show up with a half gallon of Jack Daniels and a fifth of Lunazol tequila.
Mm-hmm.
And they had basically, not just Mikey and Stevie, but their buddies and some of us parents too, polished off that half gallon before kickoff. Is it?
That's good. Yeah, that's encourage binge drinking. I think that's a smart move to do. Yeah, that's. I don't think there's any parent watching or listening to this right now that would disagree with that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I think maybe taking bong hits with your kids though, but that probably goes over the line.
Why?
Maybe.
I don't. Why? Let me ask you that. Why would that be over the line? It's legal.
No, I know, but it just seems improper.
But finishing a fifth of alcohol with your kids, not?
No, I didn't do that. It was a half gallon. It wasn't a fifth.
Oh, sorry, half gallon. But that's okay. Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna do a drug that honestly will just kind of put me to sleep and make me eat, or I'm gonna do another one that literally will make me want to fight people, then get behind a car and drive into a ditch. Okay. All right. I see where you're at. I know for a fact that when Mari and Owen are of age and in college, that you'll be doing the same thing that I was doing this weekend with my kids. Yeah, sure.
Don't you think?
More of a responsible human being. So what was it fun? Did you end up staying with them?
Yeah, stayed in Stevie's room. Yeah. So we were in there, but but
no Mikey. Mikey wouldn't let you in the apartment.
The worst part about we got to get into the game. Who cares about what I did?
Okay, just real quickly, how was it? Was it good?
After the game, so we win, right? We hold them on the 2-point conversion, and that's the second time in 2 weeks that we held a team on the 2-yard line and won the game. It was fantastic stuff, and you saw it. It was just like Pac-12 after dark all over again, and it was so much fun to see that. So much fun to be there too, and getting free tickets from you, and then upgrading from the 20-yard line to the 40-yard line.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's the third time I've given you tickets. You actually don't sit in the seat, so that makes me feel good about myself.
No, I know. Can you get better season tickets next year?
I will. I'm going to get better season tickets just for you. So when I give you the free tickets and you don't ever pay me anything for it,
okay. I'd appreciate that
problem.
if you could upgrade next year. So we're all celebrating, hugging, and there's fireworks going off, and then Mikey says, "Screw it! I know it's just San Jose State, but I'm going to run on the field." And then people gave a shit about that. You can't storm the field. I appreciate that you're on board with that, though, because they're kids having a good time at a football game. Who cares who stormed the field? If the Huskies had done that after beating San Jose State, I would have given them all kinds of shit. But
okay, fine.
It was us, so it doesn't matter. But
I just love these people that get so angry about when 18, 19, 20, in my case, 48 years old, storm a field, and that pisses them off. That's just something to be upset about. That's who gives a shit what you people do. They want to go on the field and celebrate. There's nothing wrong with that. Is it San Jose State? Fine. It's just fun. Sports is supposed to be fun, right?
But I think what it was typically it's like when you beat a rival like the Huskies, or when you beat USC or somebody who's ranked really high in the top 10 and you upset them on your home field. But this one, I think you could make an exception for, because it was just just even watching on TV, wherever you watch the game, it just the highs and lows, the back and forth, and how long the game went. And it just seemed like, oh man, we're going to for sure win. Oh no, we're going to for sure lose. And then just back and forth, the whole thing. God, it was just, it just sapped your energy, and then it brought your energy back. And the kid I was happiest for, Dean Janikowski.
Oh, I've got my own thing with Dean.
Him?
Well, I felt terrible. And this is actually a lesson learned from Chris Egan on Friday. And it gets me back to the Mariners here for a second. That's why I'm wearing a Mariners hat. Is that you can never give up on your team, right? And Egan just got on. He's like, "What are you doing? You said 2 weeks ago you want him to lose the rest of the games." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just so fed up with them." He's like, "How can you be fed up with them?" Like, they're, at that point, well, they still are, right? They're 2 games back with a week to go. You should be excited. And then I thought about it this weekend, and I'm watching the Mariners game, and I don't really, in the bottom of my heart, want them to lose games. In the bottom of the pit, when I'm watching those games, and Julio scoring runs, and they're winning games, and I'm like, I'm excited when they win. And so I thought, God, you know what? Egan's right, and he just killed me for it. And because we know if they can get in, they could certainly make a case to win a series. And who knows what happens with that pitching staff? I'm getting sidetracked here, and I'm going to get back to the Cougs in a second. But the same thing was with the Cougs. Like halfway during that game, I was getting so angry. My wife just turned to me and said, and my kids were like, we're going to stop watching the game with you because this sucks. It's awful.
God, you were tweeting up a storm.
I know.
Mikey goes, God, Dad, Puck must be drunk.
No, not a single drop. I just nothing. But I'm never doing that again. I felt like Softy live tweeting. It was terrible. I'm never ever doing that again. And when he missed the extra point, I was like, it's it, done. Don't want to see him kick again. And I knew the second he lined up for that 52-yard field goal, I'm like, he'll make it. And he did. And now when he made it, and then I saw what you said, I was like, you know what? I'm so glad, and you're right. I feel so good glad for him because he hasn't been good. Going back to last year, he's been really, really bad. So I made a donation to his charity. He has a charity. Did you know that he has a charity?
Yeah, for his mom. We talked to him. What was it, last year or the year before? And no, I mean, what he's doing for his mom. And I sat there, and after he made it, I thought, that is so cool because it really doesn't matter. Like we've been through Cougar losses before. It was kind of funny, being with my kids. And then I was with a bunch of like my buddy Todd, my buddy Robert, Bob Taylor, Fred. I mean, all these guys were there. We've been through losses like the one that we looked like we were going to take Friday night. And so, but it was kind of interesting to see my kids, that were like, oh shit, like Mikey was like, when we were down 14, he was like, he looked at me, he goes, why'd you go to school here? And the reason he asked that question is that because ever since he was a little kid, he's been rooting for the Cougs because Dad went to school there. And then he paused, and then he goes, why did I go to school here?
Why did I go to school here? That's a terrible thing to say. I don't like to hear that. Then, was that Mikey or Stevie?
Mikey. And then, 20 minutes later, he's going, I'm going to storm the field. I mean, it's just, it was just so much fun, Puck. I mean, it was just, it just was, I don't know. I just was so happy. And it doesn't matter that we didn't cover, like we were talking about. Okay, now this is the part of the program here where you praise me.
But you nailed it.
Praise me. Come on, go ahead.
Absolutely nailed it. And it made me more nervous as the week went on. You nailed it. You said from the get-go, it's going to be a trap game. They're not going to cover. San Jose State's going to come in there, and they're going to give them a game. And you're right. And I'll tell you this about San Jose State. First of all, that's the best team they've played all year. That's the best defensive line they've played all year. And yes, is that a shot at Washington? You goddamn right it is. Because that defensive line was unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. And maybe San Jose State turns out to be not that good. I think they were they picked like 9th or 10th, the Mountain West, something like that.
No idea. And then that quarterback being a former walk-on for us, and then go down there. He had a hell of a night. Our defense, I mean, come on. Our defense is a concern. It's not good at all.
It's a major concern.
Not good at all.
They cannot tackle.
And they've been consistently not good.
Well, what they've done before that game was they give up yards, but then in the red zone they lock it down. But they didn't lock it down except for that, the play at the end with the 2-point conversion.
Okay, now Puck, did you have any? Because after they scored on the 4th and 10 or whatever it was. Okay, so after they scored, and God, that kid took a shot. I know he was open, but then he took a shot.
Can't believe he held
And then to see the San Jose State sideline, they just erupted and everything. Did you, though, I honest to God, and it sounds easy to say in hindsight, but I sat there and I thought, hey, man, we're going to get the ball at the 25-yard line. We have 26 seconds, and we have 2 timeouts. And if we can somehow, get to the 40 or the 35 like we did, we might have a shot. And God, that nice throw, was it to Williams over on the left side that we got a gain of 25 out of?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just fantastic. And so that showed you too, like whatever you think about Mateer, and everybody knows he's an elite runner, but that kid can be an elite passer too, I think. I know he doesn't have the percentage yet, but he's growing in that area. That's what really gives me hope. Like we all know he can run the hell out of it, but he can't pass the hell out of it right now. But he's shown signs that And then he had one that Williams dropped that was just over there by the pylon.
People need to stop with the Tim Tebow reference. Okay. First of all, I mean, he's a better passer than Tim Tebow. He just is.
The Locker comparisons, he's going to be a better passer than Jake was.
Yeah, but I think the Locker one is more comparable. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are some throws that he can definitely get better at. They're not dynamic at the wide receiver position. They're missing their best wide receiver in Carlos Hernandez. Kyle Williams dropped a beautiful thrown ball. A beautifully thrown
that throw was awesome.
Okay,
yeah,
and that hit him right. His receivers don't help him out. They drop too many passes. He's under duress the entire game, by the way. His offensive line could not block anyone. And so he's running for his life. I mean, he keeps this up. I mean, their offensive line keeps this up, and he keeps taking hits like this. He won't survive the season because he just gets hit on every play. But through 4 games, I haven't looked at it. Is he in any Heisman odds? Because if they keep winning and he plays like this, he's going to be invited there, and he'll be in the conversation. He had 390 yards, 111 yards on the ground, and 5 touchdowns. He has better numbers, Jim, real quick, and then I'll shut up. He has better numbers through the 4 games this year than the guy who won the thing last year. In Jay Daniels.
Well, I haven't looked today, but up until like Friday, I keep wanting to bet on him. And they don't, at least on my website, they don't have any odds on him yet. I bet you they do now, though. I'll check.
I mean, their argument is, well, they haven't really played anyone. Well, okay, but I mean,
what do you mean we haven't played anyone?
I'm just saying that's what they would say.
And why aren't we ranked?
I see it right now. FanDuel has him at plus 3,300.
Which is 33 to 1, right?
33 to 1. So he's at, let's see. So he's got the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th best odds right now.
I'll check.
Cam Ward's at plus 350. He's got the best odds. How about if they both go to New York City and you're like, the Washington State University, okay?
Yeah.
Has 2 Heisman Trophy finalists sitting in New York City. God, that'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah, you're right. They got Mateer here, 33 to 1. How much do you want? How much do you want on it?
You want to go in on it?
Let's go 20 each.
Let's go 100 each.
100 each?
Yeah. So what? We lose $100. Big deal.
So what?
Huh?
I'm on a fixed income now.
Come on.
Let's go 20 each. Okay, 40.
Come on, $100. Let's go. We can settle it off there. You want to go 20? We can go 20. But I mean, let's push it up.
Okay, I'm going to give you 25 of it. 25. I'm going 25. You're going 25. It'll pay $16.50.
Okay.
Place bet.
All right, here we go.
Done. Cam
Ward's the leader. Then it's Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe from Alabama, the Tennessee quarterback, who I am not going to try to pronounce his last name. Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, Travis Hunter, then Will Howard, Miller Moss, and then the guy he's tied with is the guy he'll see it this weekend, the running back for Boise State, the Ashen Genty. So they both have the same.
Yeah, I looked up his name. I looked at some highlights. It's Genty. Yeah, I think it's Genty. I thought it was like Jante, but sounds like it's. I think we'll know his name Saturday night.
We will. Have you seen his numbers?
I wrote him down even in show prep. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. He is averaging 10.5 yards a touch. 56 carries for 586 yards and 9 touchdowns. His backup, the Gaines guy's averaging 8 yards a touch. They're going to run the ball. I mean, they're averaging like, what is it? 8 yards. They have 934 yards on the season rushing the ball.
Well, yeah. And if you want to say, well, who's Boise State played? Well, they played Oregon, and against the Ducks, he carried it 25 times for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Or how about that Georgia Southern game? 267 rushing yards, school record, 6 touchdowks.
If the Cougs play like they did, if the Cougs play like they did last week, they'll lose. I mean, Boise State is their best opponent that they're going to face as of now, and then Fresno's no slouch either.
Yeah, but Boise State will be the best opponent we play all year. If we can get by this game and then have a bye week
to this point,
yeah. Well, I mean. I think the rest of the year.
Oregon State's going to get better, man. Oregon State's averaging 300 yards on the ground. Just beat Purdue. I mean,
can we just? Yeah, I mean the Beavers. I mean, they had a good game against Purdue. Yeah, it was good. But
God, where's the chainsaw? And
okay,
I love how they pull for us. When we win, the Beavers are sending out a tweet. Congratulations! I'm like, goddamn right, man. You know what? Because it's funny. We're gonna get to the Seahawks in a second. I wonder if you feel this way. Like all I do on Saturdays, look at the box scores for all of the defectors. And I hope to pray to God they all lose and get their asses kicked, right? I laughed my ass off when old Dillingham, Dillyball, lost to Texas Tech. They didn't do anything on offense. Colorado should have lost to Baylor. We'll get to the ball washing of Joel Klatt probably maybe today or tomorrow or Wednesday. So I was glad, well, they won, but I was glad UCLA lost. Rooting hard for Michigan when they scored that touchdown, pumped my fist as they knocked off USC.
What'd they have? 42 passing yards and they won the game? Michigan?
Yeah, they didn't throw the ball at all. They just ran the ball the entire time. That's all they did. The entire time. There's one team, though, that I don't root against.
Utah.
Uh-huh. Because I love him. I love him so much.
I do too.
I can't. So I'm watching that game, and I'm like, you know what? And I said, Oklahoma State is about to feel what it's like to play Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes. Yeah. And they went in there with a freshman quarterback and beat their asses.
Plus, I don't know this, but I just get the feeling that Utah didn't want to leave. I don't feel like they wanted to leave.
I'm with you on that one. I just, it's something I'm with you. I feel like they didn't want to leave and they had to stay, or they had to go because, they had to go. But
hey, are you gearing up for that big game Friday night? The Huskies.
Rutgers and Huskies.
Yeah, let's go.
The Rutgers I saw is favored by 2.5.
I know.
The Scarlet Knights. Yeah,
hey, kids, jump on the plane. We got 5.5 hours to go to Newark or wherever the hell they're going.
How about Stanford? Do you think Stanford's all fired up to get they played Syracuse, won on Friday night. They fly back to Palo Alto. They got to get back on a plane this week, and I think they're playing Clemson.
Are they?
God. What are we doing?
Did they really? They didn't really think this through very well.
No, they didn't.
They just were like, money. It doesn't matter.
Hey, never a doubt with the Seahawks. A sloppy thing yesterday with the Seahawks, but a win is a win. And can we say this without people like the 12s getting really mad?
Because a win is a win. That's really good. No one's ever said that before.
No one has ever said that. No one has ever
never heard that before. That's some insight that you won't get anywhere else. Can you get that on the app?
I'm going to trademark that. You can only get that on the app.
Jeez. I mean, there's people everywhere right now saying, hey, honey, a win is a win. I didn't know that.
Hey, honey, I was driving around today and I heard these two guys that apparently used to be on the radio. And one of the tubby one said, hey, my takeaway is a win is a win. Have you ever heard that before?
How come we never hear a loss is a loss?
That's right. A loss is a loss.
God, was I wrong on that one? As wrong as you were about Miami of Florida just mopping the floor with
it was a game, but it was a game early on.
Well, I think they play 60 minutes though in games.
Yeah, he looks good. Cam,
but no, I liked Miami and the points in this game. And can you imagine, what in the world would I have liked about the Dolphins in that game?
Terrible. But my point was this, and this is going to anger Seahawks fans will get angry with this, right? Because everyone gets defensive. They've played nobody. Can we just say that they've I'm not going to get all caught up in their defensive stats here for a second. They've played Bo Nix, they've played Jacoby Brissett, and they've played Skylar Thompson and is it Tim Boyle? Tim Boyle. I mean, can we at least just acknowledge they haven't faced a real quarterback yet or a real offense? Is that fair?
Well, yeah, you can say that, but you can go back to your win is a win thing, though. What else are they supposed to do? If they had lost yesterday, you'd have been going, God, here we go. Like Mike Varell would have written a different column. He pointed out, Colt McCoy's beaten them before. What's his name? Who was the backup quarterback for Pittsburgh last year? The guy that got the helmet thrown at him.
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph.
No, I agree. I agree with all that. But I'm just saying that And I'm just saying it's a percentage of the praise pie, is it not? Can we it's a slice.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but why do you point that out before you point out all the positives?
Because I think it's okay to point out that they haven't really been challenged yet by a good quarterback.
I know, I'm just giving you shit. Okay, come on, don't you know me?
You know, I think my point was it's okay just to say, hey, I'm fired up for him defensively. It is a defense still that last week. I mean, we all do this as sports fans, right? It is a defense that last week gave up 190 yards to the Patriots on the ground.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, can I point out something that's at the other end of the spectrum from all this negative shit that you're spewing out here?
I'm not negative.
Yes, you are. I am too,
negative?
though. I am too. But it occurred to me as I was out with the dogs on the trail today that, okay, the Seahawks are the only other team that's unbeaten is Minnesota in their conference. All right.
Okay.
And then you look around the NFC right now, and I know it's just 3 games in, but do you look at another team in the NFC and think, man, the Seahawks have no chance against them? Typically, like when Pete Carroll had his teams and they were jockeying for a wild card, you thought, yeah, they can maybe make it in, but they're not going to go all the way. But now, like San Francisco going into the season, everybody thought, okay, they're the best team in this conference.
Yeah.
Well, are they now? No, they're 1-2, and McCaffrey might be out forever. Who knows? I mean,
they're not healthy. Let's reevaluate them when they're all healthy, though.
And Debo was out. Well, I mean, maybe these things will linger with them,
sure,
and they've got some ground to make up now at 1-2. Right. So I don't look at the NFC and go, man, the Seahawks have no shot at making. I mean, you can even, well, can you say the Seahawks could be Super Bowl contenders this year? When you look around the conference, I mean, do you look at the Eagles and think, yeah, the Eagles are the team to beat this year. The Saints are this upstart team, but they didn't look so upstart yesterday against the Eagles. So, like, who do you look at in the NFC right now and go, yeah, that team's better than Seattle? Nobody.
Nobody. I think everything you said, everything's on the table. All of it is on the table. There's no team that has established themselves as the best team in the league. For sure. I mean, now it's early on. We're talking about 3 games here, and everyone, it's all going to change, and guys are going to get back healthy. And I don't know, is Minnesota going to keep this up with Sam Darnold? Maybe they do. They're going to get a great test next week with Detroit. I mean, every
time you see Sam Darnold, you think about the Friday night in Pullman.
I do.
And Jihad Woods.
And then I think of Beth Moans. Sam Darnold. I always think of that. I just think of the way that she would say his name, and then yes, I think of him retreating and getting sacked, strip sacked. Good call.
I'm happy for Sam Darnold's success, though.
I mean, getting a second chance, but to your point, sure. Yeah, there's no one that is. I mean, that's the beauty of the NFL, though. It's the parody of it, but especially this year, because the Eagles, they looked dead to right yesterday. They didn't look great. They pulled off a win. Minnesota, they're going to keep it up at 3-0. You mentioned, I mean, Dallas looks like a disaster right now, but who knows?
God, Dallas is awful.
It's 1-2, but then Dallas could, rattle off, 8, 7, 8, 9 wins in a row, and then they're right back in it. But
but the Seahawks now, I mean,
they've built a nice cushion.
I'm gonna state the obvious. I was just gonna say it. Yeah. So now you can lose a game or two here along the way in the next tough stretch that they have.
Of course, and they're only going to get better.
If you beat Detroit in that Monday night game.
Gravy.
I mean, then you're 4-0, and you're only a 3.5-point underdog. And Detroit lost to Tampa Bay. They're in Detroit a couple weeks ago, so it's not like. And they weren't that great against the Cardinals yesterday.
If with the defense comes out the way they've played here in the first 3 weeks, and they do that to Detroit, then it's all 100% praise. And I'm giving them like 90% praise right now. I'm just saying like 10% is they haven't really played anybody yet. I just want to see him with better competition. And when they get past that, they'll get Daniel Jones. And I know that they had a good game yesterday, but I don't think anyone's scared of them. And then it's San Francisco, even though they're banged up, but that is at least the top team in the conference right now. I mean, they are going into the season, and nothing yet is going to change my opinion on that. Let's wait for the whole season to play out. And then it's Atlanta and Cousins. That offense has got the capability to do some crazy things against you. Buffalo and Josh Allen. Then they'll get Matt Stafford. So yeah, that was a great freaking comeback there by the Rams. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, what they were down 7 at the 2-minute warning, I think, and then got the good punt return and ended up winning the game. So, yeah, and then the Falcons. I mean, you point out. I mean, Cousins, he could have beaten the Chiefs last night. They should have called pass interference in the end zone.
Of course they should have. I can't believe some people are arguing against that. He tackled him.
I know.
God, I mean, come. What was like? Of course they should have called it. They tackled him in the end zone. You have to call that, don't you not?
Yeah.
I thought it was great to see. One of the biggest takeaways, at least from the game yesterday for me, was Charbonnet, because that was the Zach Charbonnet that you saw at UCLA. Finally, not the guy that last week he felt like he was running, I don't know, scared or tentative, and he didn't run that way yesterday. Ran hard.
I like the 2 different style backs that they have too. When Walker comes back, just you got 2 different guys that can. But Walker's clearly the better back. I mean, he's more of a.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but Charbonnet, that's a good 1B. I mean, what the hell, I mean, Walker. I mean, who knows if he's going to stay healthy the whole year? Probably not. He hasn't already. So
no, he has not. He hasn't. Well, he hasn't, and it's an injury that he ended up having last year that he's aggravated again this year. The Mariners still on life support. Still on life support, Jim. So I looked this up. Now, you know me, math is not my strong suit, okay?
What is?
That's a good, hold on. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I make people laugh. Is that kind of? Okay,
you make me laugh.
We'll move on. If they are 80-76 right now, okay, so Detroit and the Royals are 82-74. So if either of those 2 teams, if they go 3-3, Seattle's got to go 6-0, right? Yes, because they're a game back of both those teams.
Do they
tiebreaker?
How about Kansas City and Seattle? What's because they
Yeah,
Do you know what breaks the tie there?
Yeah, the interleague conference record, and I think Kansas City has them on that one.
But boy, Kansas City
falling apart.
Can you imagine what Royals fans are thinking right now? They've lost 7 in a row.
So if those 2 teams just go 500, Seattle's got to run the table. Now, if those 2 teams go 2-4, Seattle's got to go 5-1 to get them to 85-77, and they would finish with an 84-76 record. If they end up just falling apart and going 1-5, Seattle can go 4-2. If Detroit or the Royals lose the final 6 games of the season, Seattle could just go 3-3. And then I think they still mathematically have a chance for the division.
Well, yeah, but what's the magic number? 2. The Astros win tonight, it's over.
If the Astros win, yes. Well,
yes, because they'll be 6 games up with 5 games to go.
Oh, that would get them to because they're 85-71 right now. It gets them to 86.
Math's a stronger suit for me than you anyway.
Yeah. So it ended tonight. Yeah. Well, they still have a shot if they go 1-5. If they go 1-5 and Seattle runs the table.
Hey, you want me to give you something?
They can still win it.
You want me to give you something creative? You might not get it on another podcast or another show.
What is that?
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Mariners lose tonight, and you'd think, well, why would I say something so stupid as that?
Why?
Because if they lose tonight, then they can't win the division anymore, but they'll still be in the wild card race. Houston, in the next 2 games in the series, we're going to rest our starters.
Oh,
we're going to get our pitching rotation lined up for the playoffs.
Okay.
We'll just call up some guy from AAA to pitch tonight. And it might be easier for the Mariners to win the next 2 against the Astros if that happens.
They've already set their rotation, though.
What, Houston has?
Yeah.
But that could change if they win tonight and clinch.
I mean, I guess it could, but
play along with me, would you?
Yes, I'll play along with you.
That's what good partners do.
Since your wife won't. Tonight, Brown, and then Valdez, and then what I don't want to see is to see Kikuchi on Wednesday clinch it for them, and then they celebrate, and he's the winning pitcher.
No, yeah, that wouldn't be good.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that happen at all.
Yeah.
None of that happening.
But you're still thinking the chances are remote, even though it's just a 2-game lead in the wild card.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course they're remote, but I mean, they still stranger things have happened in sports. I mean, But yesterday,
God, Egan really made you feel bad.
He
huh?
did. I texted him. I said, "You son of a bitch, man! You really made me feel bad, and really had to evaluate myself as a sports fan." Because he's right. He's like, you can't root for them to lose. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I said, Chris, I'm so angry at the team, and I am. I'm just so angry with how they play and how this season has gone that it made me so. I think you're probably the same way. So upset of how they have played. And rooting for them this year has been especially hard. I can't be in the minority.
It's not that I'm rooting against the Mariners. I'm rooting against Jerry. Is what I'm rooting against. Like I don't want Jerry to have success at this point.
I hear you.
I know. It's terrible, but for the greater long-term good, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Mariners don't make the playoffs this year. That's all.
Are you rooting for at least Dan Wilson to have success?
No, I don't really care about that. That whole Dan Wilson story is lame, if you ask me. I mean, I loved it. I loved him as a player, but I mean, it's just the throwback. Let's just recycle 90. I don't get the Dan Wilson hire. I'm sorry. Do you?
Well, would you acknowledge that at least the switch with him and then Edgar is not? You don't think it's made a difference?
Yeah, they've been better. They've been hitting better. But I mean, do you think Service sits there and watches these games and he probably looks at his wife and goes, "Yeah, now Julio gets hot."
Yeah.
Now he's hot.
So what are we in? Are we in before you go? Are we in for $50 for Mateer to win the Heisman?
Yeah, 25 each.
Yeah, 33-1.
Yeah. 33-1 doesn't seem good enough though. Shouldn't it be 100-1?
I don't know. He's look at his numbers. I mean, it's God. He is just. Can you imagine
if we made that playoff and he was the Heisman Trophy winner, and then what's our Krueger collective? God bless them, but how can we keep a Heisman Trophy winner?
I'm going to tell you right now. I have a 2002 Monterey ski boat. I'm going to sell the ski boat and I'm going to give it to the collective.
Well, how about
to keep them?
If Mateer said, "Hey, that guy that I went, that PuckSports guy, I mean, he's got that Goldie, that van, and if you give me that van, I'll stay for another year in Pullman." Would you give up Goldie
for a year for him to stay?
Yeah.
He can have it for a year. You want me to
just for a year?
Just
1
for
year.
a year. He can only have it. Yeah, he can't have it permanently. That's my baby. I love that thing more than I love my family. No.
I'd probably give up my Ridgeline to Mateer if he wants.
Well, first of all, we're comparing a classic vintage van that is a collector's item worth a lot of money to a piece of shit Ridgeline that's got grass growing in it.
Hey, don't tell me what's a piece. Your van might be a collector's item, but it's a piece of shit too. It looks like a piece of shit from the outside.
It's not.
Don't be ripping on that Ridgeline, man.
My God.
I went from Bend to Pullman a couple of weeks ago, and I patted on it, and I said, "Good job."
Van is just 1,000 times better looking than your car.
How many miles you got on that thing?
247,000.
What?
247. Do you want me to speak up louder for you? Do you have your hearing aid in?
Shut the fuck up. I can hear you.
I got
354 on that Ridgeline. Okay.
Do you want a medal?
God, River puked in it too the other day. I mean, on the way to Pullman, I had to pull over in Colotis.
I love Colotis. Shout out Colotis.
They have a nice little city park there.
Yeah, they do. Fine American city in Eastern Washington. All right. All right, we got $25. No, we got $50 Mateer to win the Heisman, 33-1. You'll like this. You see Alabama's dogs at home against Georgia. It's going to change, I guarantee it. But how about this streak? Because I thought of you. This is why I wrote it down. I want to get to it before we get to Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree. They have been at home favored in 90 straight games at home. It dates back to 2007. Jesus. That's a hell of a stat.
Well, it's Alabama, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
you're ending my appearance with a bang with that one.
Glad this is over. All right. I love you to death. I'm glad you had a good time in Pullman. We'll wrap with you again there on Wednesday.
Okay, Puck. Take care. Go Cougs.
Yeah, go Cougs. There he is, Jim Moore. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we talk to the go-to guy who graces us with his appearance every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at PuckSports.com. And again, for those on the who are just joining us, the app, the PuckSports mobile app, it should be in the App Store now. I guess, and talking to Jacob, the app guy, that once it's uploaded to the App Store, it kind of takes some time to get to all the different regions. What that means, I don't know. If it's not up there now, it will be up there momentarily. Okay, so don't fret. Now, up there on that mobile app, the real benefit of the mobile app is this: there's you can listen live. So if you're walking around in your car, at work, don't want to watch the stream on YouTube and on Twitter, you can just now listen to the stream live and take it in your car everywhere. That's the benefit of the Puck Sports mobile app. So again, it'll be up there shortly. Let's welcome them in here. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen, to talk a little Seahawks football. Curtis Crabtree and the great Tim Booth. Little edition of HawksNest here with us, gentlemen. How are you, Tim? You're doing good, Curtis.
Why is Curtis in his car?
I don't know why.
I'm in my
Curtis,
car
why are you
because
in the
my
car?
apartment complex decided to.
His apartment complex decided.
I mean, my apartment complex decided to start ripping up the bathroom of the leasing office.
Oh.
Yeah, so I am having on a jerry rig set up across the street with my my car phone set up, and we'll see how this works. I'm not sure.
This is very Divish like.
Yeah, it very much is.
Tim, this is worse than Divish. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that right now. HawksNest, we do it with Tim Booth and Curtis Crabtree every Monday. It's brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. Manny's Pale Ale, Roger's Pilsner. Two fine beers here crafted by Georgetown Brewery. Also, the Bodhisattva IPA. The tap room is open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. Tim, let me start first with you. Not the prettiest of wins, but as Jim mocked me earlier, a win is a win.
Yeah, that's probably I think they would like to erase the tape of the second and third quarters and maybe just remember the first quarter and that last 98-yard drive. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Maybe that was expected considering, what Miami was missing with Tua out and throwing Skylar Thompson in there, and then watching him just get beat to hell by the pass rush yesterday. I think if you're Seattle, you kind of like what Jim said, you sort of appreciate the fact you won an ugly game. If you're Mike McDonald, you're probably thrilled with having some tape to go back and rip your guys on, just like we talked about last week with the run defense was an issue last week. This week it was better, but your offensive execution in the second and third quarters was pretty crappy. You've got areas that you can grow from out of this game and out of this tape. So I think all in all, you're happy. You're thrilled to be 3-0. You're happy to have a 2-game lead in the division, but it wasn't the most. It was a slightly unsightly kind of game yesterday.
Curtis, what did you take away from it? The fact that it was a sloppy game, that they didn't look great at times, but at the end of the day, it's hard to win in this league, and they won in a pretty comfortable fashion.
Yeah, I mean, the Miami quarterback situation yesterday was pretty non-functional. Like, whether it was either Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle, like, they were very incapable of doing just about anything. I mean, maybe the best part of yesterday's game was on that final play of the first half, I think, when Skylar Thompson's going to throw the Hail Mary and then gets drilled from behind from Derek Hall, and Tim, sitting right in front of me in the press box, just goes, "Oh, he's going to die." And it was just like, yeah, there's no awareness there with that quarterback at the moment. And there was multiple occasions of that during that game. And all you can do is beat the teams and who they put on the field in front of you. The Seahawks have done that. They certainly have not been tested with a very good football team so far yet this season. But they are 3-0, and it gives them some cushion. I mean, even 2 weeks from now, they get the Giants, who aren't very good either. So, they could be well ahead of the bar for a while here to start the season and try to get themselves to the point where they are playing as sharp as they want to be for the teams that are at the top of the league, division, etc.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, Jim and I were joking earlier. Again, they only can beat the teams that are placed in front of them, right? I mean, and these are the teams that have been in front of them, and they've won all the games. But I do think when we're giving the praise pie, right? Don't we have to have a little bit of a slice, however big the percentage of that slice is? A percentage of it has to be the quality of opponents right now, and it's specifically the quarterback play. I mean, they have beaten Bo Nix, making his first NFL start, Jacoby Brissett, and then the combination of Skylar Thompson and Boyle. I mean, they haven't really been been tested at all.
No, they haven't. And everyone thought this was going to be the test. Everyone thought this was going to be the week that they got tested. I mean, Mike McDonald with a new staff and a new system coming in could not have asked for a softer landing in theory than what you got with a rookie quarterback in Denver and then going and playing a New England team that's in a full-on rebuild at this point. So everyone, when we first looked at the schedule, we thought, okay, week 3 is going to be the time when they finally get a little bit of a test. Well, surprise, week 3 was maybe the easiest of the 3 wins they've had so far. Because of the non-functioning ability of the quarterbacks on the other side with Tua unavailable, and I think Mike McDaniel had a very basic and uninspiring game plan yesterday. I just thought he could have done this is a guy who's supposed to be an offensive genius, and I thought he could have done a hell of a lot more with the weapons that they have on that offense to at least make it a game and at least make Skylar Thompson a functional quarterback yesterday and keep him from getting absolutely destroyed by Seattle's pass rush. So no, they have not been tested yet, and this week is finally it. Like, hey, you're finally playing a real team. You're finally going to play someone who's going to push you in a way that you have not been pushed yet. And so yes, Gino played great in week 2. Yes, DK's been really good. Yes, the defense has shown signs of having the potential of what we saw McDonald's defense look like in Baltimore. You're seeing flashes of that at moments. But if you're handing out as you said, carving up the pie and putting, sections to what's led to this 3-0 start, 75% of it has to be what the schedule has ended up being and who they've ended up playing so far.
Yeah, I mean, but Curtis, it's not to take away defensively what they have done. I mean, again, there are flashes of them defensively that you see the improvement and something they have been much better than in years past. And others have noted this, Curtis, that, I mean, in years past, you've seen lesser quarterbacks come in here and beat this football team. And that just has not been the case through 3 games with Mike McDonald.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Skylar Thompson or Tim Boyle, maybe Tim Boyle if you give him a full game to prepare, because I've seen him play a little bit before, but I mean, they're not even to the level of, like, at least from what I saw, of like a Colt McCoy or a guy who's done that to them in the past. But yeah, as you mentioned, like defensively, the pass rush looks fairly legitimate. They seem to be causing problems for just about every quarterback they face, and the rush looks that they give them seem to be causing confusion on the offensive lines. There's a lot to look like structurally from the way that the defense is rolling itself out and to be encouraged with. Not only that, but I mean, you saw a lot of their depth players play yesterday and nothing changed. Like, to have Tyrese Knight start, you saw Kobe Bryant, Drake Thomas, Trevis Gibson, all of these different pieces on the defensive side who you haven't seen much for the first 2 weeks come in, and there was almost no drop off on anything. They continued to play really, really well. Again, limited offense and all that, but Devon Achane only ended up with 30 yards on 14 carries, less than 3 yards a rush. Like, he's a legit dude, and they couldn't get anything going for him either. So you have to take the little pieces and try to factor in what you see with it. And there is plenty to like with the defensive side of the football for sure, but Detroit's going to be a bigger test for them. It's a good litmus test against a good opponent who's probably, a division winning candidate in the NFC North coming up this next weekend. Big stage, Monday Night Football on the road to see what this group can look like. But there are a lot of positives, especially on the defensive side, to look at and see it at least looks like it's right structurally. Yeah. And so we'll see how they're able to deploy it against a really top flight kind of team this week.
Hey, Tim, do we have an update at all from Mike McDonald to what the situation is with both Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy?
No.
Yeah, well, that's not good. And he doesn't like to give much. I'll be honest with you. I tuned into the coaches show and I can only just describe it. And I like Mike McDonald, but I can describe it as, in really not a word, but a sound. And that would be,
That's a generous sound.
I mean, listen, no one's hiring him to be gregarious, but they could be a little bit more.
Yeah,
from this guy.
He relies very much just on what he has to say, which is based on the injury report. Usually, it seems like what his MO is that Monday he doesn't know, partly because the guys aren't in the building on Mondays. And I think he goes through the tape early, gets his update from the medical folks later in the day, maybe has an update for us when he's talking to the rest of the media in the afternoon. And then when it comes to Wednesday, he's like, look, I'm just going to wait until the injury report is out. And then you guys can ask again on Friday about whether they're actually going to play or not. So that's kind of what it seems like his MO is when it comes to injuries. But he's definitely of the less information is more kind of approach with talking about it.
Yeah. Hey Curtis, the other thing that popped out yesterday was that two storylines. First, one on offense and one on defense. Boy, I thought that was Zach Charbonnet. To me, that was a throwback to his time at UCLA. He hadn't run like that, not this year. And last week he was just really felt like he was running scared, and he didn't feel like that yesterday. He ran hard, and it just reminded me of when he was wearing that powder blue for the Bruins.
I do think he had a little bit more room to work with yesterday than he did in New England too, to give him that bit of jump start, but it was a little bit different. He was able to make more of the runs that he did get. But in the New England game, like, he was getting nothing more than what was blocked for him, and there wasn't much blocked for him. Yesterday he got a little bit of that extra little bit of yardage when he had to break through a tackle. The last touchdown, you saw that inbounds through a hole in the line there, have to squeeze through it, and then show his speed to get to the edge a little bit to get to the end zone. That looked like when we've seen Zach Charbonnet flash, that's what it's looked like. And we didn't see a ton of that last week in New England for sure. And, I think we're probably heading there, but the offensive line continues to be a problem there. It's one of the reasons why I think why that struggle was what it was in New England. But it was good to see him kind of be able to make the most of what he had available to them there with Ken Walker missing another game on Sunday.
Now, hey, Tim, I know the bar is set really low for this offensive line, but I did come away, at least in the first half, thinking, when we did the semi-regular best worst halftime show, I thought that the offensive line actually played okay and looked better, but that bar is so low this year for them. But Bradford continues to make mistakes, right? Whether he's given up a sack or the penalties that he has amassed, so many already through the first 3 weeks there of the season. Why? And looking back on it, they never gave Haynes a snap at all, correct?
Correct.
Well, what did he ever address that yesterday? And I'm just wondering what the line of thinking of why not try him at all, especially when Bradford continues to have those problems.
McDonald said after the game that they just felt like Bradford had a better week of practice and they were going to stick with him through the game. I kind of am like you. I don't understand when you see a guy continue to miss on pass blocking assignments or commit penalties, why you're not going to another option, and especially a guy that you seriously had some high hopes on by spending a draft pick where they did on getting him out of UConn. And I didn't think, like, none of the guards have looked good. I didn't think Haynes looked that bad in New England in week 2 when he did get some run. That's, again, the bar is pretty low, so I don't know, if you compared that out over what you saw from Bradford in weeks 1 and 3 and when he played in week 2, which kind of comes out ahead. All I know is that it's a problem, and it's both guards. It's not just Bradford. Tomlinson was not good for long stretches yesterday. He was okay in the run game, but there's a couple of really bad clips of him just getting absolutely run past in pass blocking. The play where DK caught the ball over Kendall Fuller on the sideline, Tomlinson absolutely whiffed. It was Gino having to step up and get away from pressure to make that throw. It's not good. And I think it's putting a lot on Connor Williams already to kind of come in and figure out how the hell to close up the dam from breaking with the interior pass rush, because it's not good. And there's no obvious solution. There's, if you're not turning to Christian Haynes already, then that means you don't have a solution, that you're trying to figure out how you're going to piece this together and make it functional moving forward. And at some point, it's going to cost you. At some point, you're going to play, thank God Aaron Donald's not in the league anymore, but you're going to play a team that has an elite interior, pass rusher or an elite interior lineman who's going to absolutely expose and cause major issues for this offense if they can't figure out a way to sort of fix this at this point.
Curtis, you guys had spent so much time there, and obviously every day in camp watching the battle. Did Haynes just never established himself at all during camp? And what is it, maybe specifically that you see, or at least talking to Scott Huff and others, that he is struggling at right now to not take that role away from Bradford? And is it a concern that he has yet to wrestle that away because of how much Bradford has struggled? To me, that's a major concern. And I know it's early on and I overreact more than anyone, but I start overreacting. Did they just completely whiff on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing Laken Tomlinson's not doing is committing 2 penalties a game, which is the big problem that Anthony Bradford's also having. Bradford pretty much had, the primary run throughout all of training camp as the number 1 option there at right guard. And, I mean, look, the coaches see everything that those guys do on the practice field. They're not going to play the guy they think is the wrong guy just for reasons.
Right.
Like, so if they're not turning to Christian Haynes at this point, it's because they don't feel like he's ready to do everything. But that game from Anthony Bradford was ugly yesterday in so many ways. Like, Deshaun Hand beat him for the sack of Geno Smith on the opening drive. Calais Campbell forced his way through for the sack of Geno in the 3rd quarter. And then if you go on Geno's 2nd interception, the one that gets tipped up and intercepted by Zach Sealer, go watch that play. It's actually pretty funny to watch in retrospect. Calais Campbell just gets Bradford and just shoves him out of the way to the side to get into Geno's face and get to tip that ball for the interception there. So yeah, both the guard spots have not been good so far, and that is a major concern for them for sure. And on top of that, I think another just subplot of it was they also went into camp with their 2 center options were who? Olu Oluwatimi and Nick Harris. Nick Harris they've since traded, and Olu Oluwatimi has been inactive the last 2 weeks in favor of Jalen Sundell as the backup center option. So, I mean, he's basically been passed by multiple both of those guys have essentially been passed by multiple guys on the depth chart since the start of training camp. And it's why we were raising the red flag on them interior of their offensive line during training camp. This is not looking pretty right now.
Hey, Tim, again, it's hard to get any information out of this new coaching staff at all. But just maybe based on body language, maybe conversations you guys have. I mean, the Ken Walker injury, is this something that is going to linger and linger and linger, or do we expect him back Monday night against Detroit?
I think there's a chance this week. He was doing some running on there's video out there. He was doing some running on the side last week, and it wasn't like just light jogging. Like he was actually doing some to sprinting to a certain level, doing some stop and go kind of stuff. So I do think there's the possibility that he's back this week, but you have to take into account too, they're about to play 3 games in 11 days. And understanding that how are you going to manage that with a guy who's trying to come back from an oblique, and that's going to factor in with all their injuries. George Fant had his setback, and now he's sidelined. So you obviously got that coming up. You've got the issues with Murphy and Williams coming out of yesterday and the uncertainty of that, and now you go into your busiest 10-day, 11-day stretch of the season, playing 3 games and 2 of them against really, really good opponents. So I do think there's a chance Walker is back this week. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they said, okay, well, Zach had a great game. Let's give him run for one more week against Detroit, and then bring back Walker for the Giants game, give him another week, and then you kind of sort of marry the 2 together to play against the Niners. Like I kind of feel like that's going to be the approach that they have, knowing what this condensed schedule is going to look like coming up.
We haven't got to this yet, but Curtis, Derek Hall, man, he was just everywhere. And the thing that's just so great about watching him play and intriguing and tantalizing and all that is he's a guy that just doesn't feel like you don't got to scheme anything for him, because he's just so naturally gifted and has yet to kind of really scratch the surface of what he can be. He's a guy you just line up and you just say, go get the quarterback, and he'll go get the quarterback. But man, I don't know if that was the Derek Hall breakout game, but if it was, and this is the sign of things to come, man, that's a great sign for this defense.
You saw some of this in training camp I mean, I think we saw the way he looked in training camp and thought, like, it looks like he's taken a little bit of a step forward, and he certainly looked like it. I mean, that sack that we talked about a minute ago, like, it was not the toughest sack in the world, and the quarterback's just standing there on the line of scrimmage, oblivious to the guy chasing him down from behind. But, he did have a massive effect on the pocket throughout that game, affecting things. His power rush off the edge is really strong. Like, you can feel that. His ability to go through guys and really push the pocket back and get in the quarterback's face is a problem for opposing teams, and he just looks that much more comfortable this year than he did a year ago. He said yesterday that basically it wasn't a speed thing coming to the game. He just needed to understand the game more coming to the pro game, and he feels like he's gotten to that point now. And obviously, Mike McDonald was glowing about him pretty heavily after the game too. So, it was a concern of that I had going into the season of what the edge rushing positions was going to look like for them. They haven't even had Uchenna Nwosu yet, and yet
Right.
Boye Mafe and Derek Hall and the options that they've had there, combined with the pressure packages that they bring and all that, have combined to cause some problems for the opponents they're facing. So it's much better through 3 weeks than I thought it was going to be out of the gate, and that's a very encouraging sign for them. And Hall's a big part of that.
Yeah,
You know who? Oh, so I'll just jump in really quick. You know who Derek Hall reminds me of right now in year 2 is Cliff Averill, his first year here. I mean, similar body types, kind of under the radar. Cliff obviously had established himself in his career in Detroit, but he hadn't really burst onto the scene in the same way that he ended up doing here in Seattle. And the way they rush, kind of their size profile, all that, I look at Derek Hall yesterday and I'm like, that kind of reminds me of Cliff. When he was here, especially that first year before he stepped into a more prominent role. So if that's the trajectory that he's on, then it's fantastic for the Seahawks.
And you know what's fantastic, Tim? We'll just keep it there. Is just the chaos now that has surrounded the NFC West. They couldn't have scripted a better start for themselves and their new head coach to not only of who they faced. They're not wishing any injury, but the situation with Miami and having to face their backup, but then to find San Francisco, who has got injuries everywhere. They're banged up. They cough up a lead yesterday, a double-digit lead yesterday to the Rams, end up losing. I mean, 3 weeks, they have a 2-game lead in the division. It's unbelievable, Tim.
The only teams that have a 2-game lead are the Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers through 3 weeks of the season. So you know where this is going. You're going to be hanging out in New Orleans.
Can you imagine?
It's New Orleans this year, right? It's the Super Bowl.
Let's just say it is, but that would be great.
Okay, yeah, it's New Orleans. Yeah, we'll all be hanging out in New Orleans for Seahawks Steelers Super Bowl Part 2 with Russell at quarterback.
When hey, Curtis, hold on real quick. When he is inactive for that Super Bowl 2, will he be in full uniform?
Oh, of course. You think he's going to miss the opportunity?
Although Garafolo, I know he's getting kind of shit on for that, but then Garafolo brought up a good point. Like, because they can use him now, he has to be in full uniform.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Huntley was the number 3 quarterback yesterday, inactive as well. So, like, it is that sort of thing. But, I mean, Russell's put himself in the position where those optics are going to look like that way for him because of the full pregame workouts he does and, all those sorts of things. So.
Sam, I interrupted you. Go ahead. Finish your point. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know if I had a point. I was just going to say that you're to your point. You can't script out better having a 2-game lead after 3 weeks. 3 weeks of the season, especially in a division that looks pretty tough. Like Arizona looks kind of legit. Like they could have easily won week 1 in Buffalo, and then they end up playing a tough game against Detroit yesterday. The Rams, you kind of maybe felt like with all their injury issues that they were going to be the doormats this year. And then look what they did late, coming back to knock off the Niners. And then, as you said, with the injuries the Niners have right now, they're just as much of a mess as anybody. So the opportunity, again, this next 11-day stretch that they have with Detroit, the Giants, and the Niners, you want to put your stamp down on the division early in the season. You go out and win 2 of those 3 games. Right. You figure out a way to be 5-1 after 6 games, and you very well might have yourself. If you take 2 of those 3 games and one of those wins is against the Niners, you have a 3-game lead at that point over the team that you are most, probably competing with for a division title only 6 weeks into the season. that's not an insignificant sort of situation that you could set yourself up for.
Yeah. And then again, we talk about just these injuries. And again, you've got to take advantage of these injuries, but you're looking right now, news coming out of Detroit, they're all banged up. Sam Laporte is dealing with, what is it?
Ankle injury.
An ankle injury. And then their pass rusher, Marcus Davenport, a significant elbow injury. And so he could be lost for the season, according to Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport. So again, you're not rooting for injuries, Tim, but it's just the way this is playing out for them. And this will be a physical game. This will no doubt be the most physical game that they've played, because that's just the style of Detroit and Dan Campbell. But again, if they're missing key parts, it clearly benefits them.
Yeah, but you have to take into account what parts are you going to be missing.
Yeah,
Byron, when you hear Byron Murphy hamstring for a big defensive lineman like that, that's the kind of thing that you're like, oh, that could be a while. Not that it could be, serious, but for a guy like that who relies on power, that's the kind of injury that can linger. That's the kind of thing that you might need 3 weeks to fully get over, again, not knowing yet sort of the severity of it. Leonard Williams, a rib injury, as long as that's most likely a pain management kind of thing. I mean, it even looked like he was going to come back in the game in the second quarter yesterday, and then ended up not. So that, I think, is more a pain tolerance, pain management thing about whether he's going to be able to go. But the Murphy one could, of the two that came out of yesterday, the Murphy one, I think, is the one that's probably most worrisome at this point.
Hey, Curtis, through 3 games, what else stood out to you or impressed you the most about watching this team play through the first 3 weeks?
Probably, I mean, again, it goes back to the quality of the opponent, but the standard of the defense overall looks pretty good. Like, cohesive. It seems like they're playing together right out of the gate. The fact, it's probably the pass rush aspect. I mean, going back to what we talked about a little bit ago, the fact that, coming into throughout training camp, I was watching Charles Cross, not let Boye Mafe win like a single rep of one-on-one pass rush drills. And now it turns out that Charles Cross might just be that dude too. Like, he got the one play he got beat yesterday was pretty rough one for him. But in general, he's had an awesome start to the year, and maybe Boye just is better than it seemed like in training camp because of who he was going against. And collectively, the fact that the pass rush has been as effective as it has been collectively, like as a unit, looks really pretty good. The linebackers have been better than I expected out of the gate too. Like, Dodson's been quite good, I've thought, and Baker and Tyree Snight have been plenty good enough. It's probably just the collective strength of that defense early in the season. Like, I felt like they would probably get there and have their moments with Mike McDonald taking over that unit with his pedigree, and you figured it would get there. But that unit's been pretty strong with like the fundamentals of what you want to see of it. Obviously, the outcome is going to be what it is with the quarterbacks and the teams they've faced so far, but you can only play against the team in front of you, and they've looked pretty good against them. And I mean, I don't know that it surprises me a ton, but I still think Geno Smith's been pretty damn impressive through 3 weeks. I mean, he had a couple plays yesterday where he was probably trying to make too much of a couple certain circumstances, holding the ball a little too long and that sort of thing. But I think in general, he's played very, very well through 3 games, and to the point where he through 3 weeks, he's certainly in the conversation of a top 5 quarterback through that stage of the season. And if you can play that kind of quarterback, like the throw he had to DK on that Kendall Fuller sideline play where he catches him not peeking and fires it in there was brilliant. The throw last week to Tyler on that throw, or not to Jackson, where he's sliding away from pressure and over the middle of the field. That's like a top 3 or 4 throw I've seen him make in his career here with Seattle. Like, there's a lot of things he's done well through the first 3 games.
Tim, I'll just ask the same question to you. What has stood out to you in the first 3 weeks that has impressed you about him?
I think the pass defense has been really good, and someone had a stat yesterday from the NFL that they're the first team since the 79 Steelers to start 3-0 and hold their first 3 opponents under 150 net yards of passing, which also takes into account that your pass rush has to be good, because that takes, the net passing yards takes away sacks from that total. So the pass rush and the pass defense in the secondary have married together really well so far. And that's, considering some of the issues we've seen in the past with not being able to get pressure on the quarterback and not being able to, and asking your secondary to cover for long stints of time and not being able to clamp down in the secondary. Those are really good signs early on that group is working together the way that you are hoping it would. Again, you have to take into account the caliber of the quarterbacks you've played, but that's a really good start. And then to echo what Curtis said, I mean, Gino's been great. Gino's been really good. I mean, he won you the game in New England. He played really well in week 1. First and fourth quarter yesterday, he was really good. The second and third quarters were what they were, with a lot of extenuating circumstances and penalties and missed assignments and stuff that caused some of those issues. But I think you have a quarterback right now that is playing in the top third of the league in terms of the quality of what he's putting out there. And that should not be diminished. That should not be overlooked in what you're trying to accomplish this season.
Yeah. You guys are the best. HawksNest, we do it every Monday. Curtis Crabtree, Tim Booth. Fellas, tell them where they can find you there on Twitter. Curtis?
Curtis_Crabtree for me and Fox13Seattle.com sports.
Mr. Tim Booth?
It's by Tim Booth on Twitter, and you can go to apnews.com and find stories there for about another week. Or 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
Then are you announced? Okay, and then what? Or is that for a later time?
I'll let you know. I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay. So we'll have an announcement on
That's
Tim.
A tease.
We have an announcement on Tim Booth's future. What could it possibly be? I'm thinking Carney at a fair. A Carney. He's yeah. That's exactly right.
There's my answer to you, Curtis.
Yeah, HawksNest brought. Well, I can't wait to hear what the news is. HawksNest is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated. Fine beer, Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie Zaffa, Rogers Pilsner. The tap room is open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Go visit them at georgetownbeer.com. Boys, you're the best. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, Puck.
There we are. See you, Curtis Crabtree, Tim Booth there. And for the Associated Press, Tim Booth, just for a little bit longer. How about that little tease from Tim Booth? Huh? You know what? Can we at least be brought in on what it is, Tim? As we go, we'll go to baseball here in just a quick second. But again, HawksNest, Curtis Crabtree, Tim Booth, every Monday. In case you missed it, up on YouTube, also on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And, of course, you can find all episodes of everything we do up at PuckSports.com. Transition to a little baseball here on the Daily Puck Drop. As every Monday, we talk with Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM. It's all brought to you by our good friends there at Flat Stick Pub, which Flat Stick Pub, of course, a great place. If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com. How about that little fancy commercial? Again, Flat Stick Pub brings you Jim Duquette every Monday, and there he is. I don't like this time of year, Jim, and I'll tell you why. Because our time is winding down, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. In fact, as I was getting ready to come on the show today, I realized that this is the last one of the season, and the season is so long as it is, but it feels like it went fast.
Yeah, it did. I mean, can we squeeze it? We can do like a couple more, like emergency ones.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I was hoping this thing was going through the playoffs. I thought this thing was going to go through the World Series, Jim. You promised me that.
That is the thing that I was planning on. I always plan for these things to go deep into the postseason, especially with the pitching. But I can't help that they make base running mistakes. Really fundamentally bad. Like your team, okay, would not make some of the base running mistakes that we have seen the Seattle Mariners do. It's an insult to travel ball teams, to little league teams. They're not little leaguers. This is not little league baseball. They're better than that. The little leaguers are better than that.
Yeah. Did you? I don't know if you saw it yesterday. It ended up not hurting them, but I don't know if you saw the play yesterday where they had Robles dead to rights on a pickoff at second base, but they ended up the pitcher ended up throwing it away.
Right.
He was so picked off. But then he runs the third. They throw that ball away. He ends up scoring.
Right. I saw. I did see that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and and Julio, they're back picking Julio at second base, which hardly ever happens. But just because he's been so bad and Robles has been so bad, they're trying things that most teams don't try because they're getting off too far of the base. They're not paying attention. Whatever it is, the brain cramps, have been going on here, unfortunately, lately.
Hey, now that you brought that up, and I felt that happened so long ago. I didn't even write that down, and I needed to remind myself to ask you that. What did you make of that play with Julio? And you just think that he thought that because a bat was flying at him, it was a dead ball?
I do think that, because it's such an unusual thing that, okay, bat goes flying, time's called. You just don't see that, right? Usually when you see a bat fly, by the way, it ends up over in the dugout. It ends up, in the netting that protects the fans behind the dugout. We've seen that a few times. You very rarely see it go for launching down third base. So it's unusual in that sense. But I think in his brain, he was more worried about not getting hurt by a flying object and not even, for whatever reason, realizing that the ball is still live. And I think, Manny Acta's yelling at him to get back to it. It just doesn't happen very often. But my, oh my, I mean, that one, I still think the Robles one was worse, even though,
I agree.
you have one of the best run producers that's active run producers in the sport in Justin Turner at the plate, bases loaded, 3-0 count. Like, I still cannot believe that he thought it was okay to try to steal home.
And then there's some people, the rationale, well, he's just trying to make something happen. I'm like, it's a bases loaded with the guy who's the most professional hitter on the team. You just mentioned it. And it's 3-0. No one does that. Like I helped coach my son's football team, like, Pop Warner football team. Yeah. And there's a bunch of baseball players on there. And they're 10 and 11. And I set up the scenario to all of them. They had not seen the game. And I said, here's the scenario. He's at third. Yeah. Here's the count. Here's the situation. And they're like, why would you do that? Like, what? Why would you try to go home on that? Yeah. I mean, these kids are 10 and 11. Right.
Yeah, exactly. They all know. Everybody in the world knows you wouldn't go in that situation. And Robles did. I know. Anyway, that's one of the worst base running blunders I can remember. And I've seen a lot of baseball, and there's I'm sure a few others that if I went through my memory banks, I could recall. But that one, that's
right up there.
Top 3 or 4 for forever.
Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, former Mets and Orioles GM, current host, MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. Monday visit again, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Perfect night, perfect spot, I should say, for date night, guys' night, ladies' night, large group event. Visit one of their 6 locations across the Northwest at flatstickpub.com. Well, he did it. He didn't join the club. He started the club 50-50. Here's can he get to 60-60?
Boy, at this rate, I wouldn't deny it. I mean, it's 55-55. I think that's definitely in sight now too. That's amazing. I mean, especially when you look at the game that he had the other night. The 10 runs batted in, 3 homers. Just the stolen bases, like all of it. I cannot believe what he's been able to do. And I think when we talked about him during the course of the year, a lot of this, if you go back to, I think it was 2020, he had a down season that year, and he went to Seattle and worked with Ichiro, right? I mean, we've had these conversations in the winter that year, and from that point on, he's, I think, worked out up there ever since. And that's when his career really took off, is when he started changing around his workout regimen and plan, and he's taken his game to another level, both offensively, pitching wise, obviously conditioning wise, all of that.
Yeah, it's when I'm watching highlights of that, and again, we get caught up in it, but I don't know. You've probably you've watched more baseball than I have. I haven't seen a single greater performance from an individual in a baseball game in my life.
No, and there's always guys. Okay, there was other 6-for-6s like he had. Sean Green had a game where he hit 4 home runs, had I think 20 total bases. But when you take into context, and again, I had a player, Edgardo Alfonso, had a 6-for-6 game, unbelievable game. But when you take into context what he did and the fact that he gets him into the postseason, the Dodgers, for that's like 12 straight years, the fact that he's never been in the postseason, so he gets, he catapults himself into it. He gets to 50-50, which no one had ever done. Like, the game in its entirety with everything that was on the line and ended up coming out of it, I think is the single best game that I've ever seen, and I think that we will ever see. I mean, it's really hard to top those type of games anyway, but in the context of him setting the record, is amazing.
Okay, what are they missing? Because, we look at as we're getting closer and closer to the postseason, there's not one team that is, or a couple of teams that really have, at least in my opinion, haven't separated themselves that no doubt about it, they're gonna win the whole thing. And it's not usually like that anyways, Jim, but there usually seems to every year be one or two teams that you're like, yeah, that's the team to beat. Probably going into the season, we all thought it was going to be the Dodgers because of all the money that they spent on the team.
Sure.
But the pitching woes have hurt them. What is it that's keeping them back? What do they lack? Is it just the one thing, that being starting pitching, at least consistent starting pitching?
I think it's consistent starting pitching. I have some questions about their bullpen too. I don't know. They definitely don't have the depth in pitching that other teams in the league have. I think they have to, for them to go through. They need all these things. As an example, they need Yamamoto to put it together, which he has not done yet since he's come back off the injured list. They have, so if he does, and they do have Jack Flaherty, so that's two starters. That's one more than what they had last year. Last year they went into the postseason with one healthy starter, and that's why it collapsed. I don't think it's going to be anything different. The one difference they have this year is that their offense has been really, really good. So last year Freeman and Betts struggled, but now they have Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez. They have others, to fit in the lineup and deepens the lineup. Muncy, Edman, the bottom of their lineup, is much deeper than it was even earlier in the season. So they can outscore you, and win that way. But most of the time in the postseason, you need a balance of both. And I think that's where they fall short is in that pitching category, starting pitching and bullpen for me.
Yeah. What are the best, like, as we get close though, and I want to get to the AL West, or not the AL West, but just the AL collapse by the Twins and the Royals. No one wants that. It doesn't seem that anybody wants that wild card spot, right?
Right.
But right now, if you said you handicapped the best teams in the American League, the best team in the American League, best team in the National League, who would it be?
Best team in the American League I think it's Houston. They've been playing well enough, and really since they were 10 games under, I think they're the deepest now that Kyle Tucker's back. Now they have a 5-man rotation that is healthy and pitching well. I think their bullpen is deep as well. So it's to me, it's the same old team. I would go there, and I think the Yankees have started to play better again. They were dominant early, then they went through a lull, and now they've started to figure some things out again. I think those are the two. I look at those two teams as a kind of a crash course in the American League, in the ALCS. Wouldn't shock me if either one of them was the representative in the American League in the World Series.
Well, I mean, can you imagine what it's like to be a Royals fan right now and just watch this?
No.
I mean, that to not win a game on your homestand, to be in the position where you look like you were a lock. You were a lock for the postseason. And now you've got to go in the final 5-6 games of the season. You got to sweat it out.
Well, and I was going through teams that have had collapses and didn't come out of it. So you see this, over a history, and I know you've seen them too, but you see teams when they go into these funk and they can't come out of it, and it ends up, some of them don't get to the postseason, or if they do, they just can't get out of their own way in the first round. And I go back to it happened to the Padres, I think it was in 2010. I went back to 2011, both Boston and Atlanta down the stretch, lost, could not get in. I wasn't with the Mets at the time, but when I left the Mets 2 years later in 2007, they gave up a 7-game lead with 17 left. It's one of the worst collapses ever. I go back to when I was with the Mets in '98. We lost our final 5 games. We had a chance to get in the wild card. The Braves swept us the last weekend. Like, we should have gotten in. And I just remember that feeling where every day you're like, okay, we can start over, start fresh, and you get off to a bad start. Like, you get behind early, and it just takes on its own life. Your fans kind of feel it too, and they add to the unfortunately they add to the pressure that your team is feeling. Like there's so many things that are going on there, and that's where I feel for Kansas City right now, and I feel for Minnesota too. They cannot get out of their own way. Minnesota, it's been going on even longer. Detroit, I was at the ballpark the other day in Baltimore. They're playing the Tigers. All right, AJ Hinch, I talked to him for 30 minutes. He's like, our team is so new to the postseason. We're so young. We don't even know what pressure is right now. We don't feel pressure because we don't know it. We're, and now here they are tied for the second wild card and looking like they're in the position, that they're going to get in. So, it's a complete opposite of what I'm seeing with the Orioles that's playing really tight right now. So there's 3 teams, Baltimore, Kansas City, Minnesota, all playing tight, all playing poorly here down the stretch.
What we've talked a lot this year, you and I, and probably national pundits, about the struggles of Julio Rodriguez. But you just were talking there about the Orioles, and it got me thinking. Adley Rutschman, what went on this year with him?
He's really, really struggled from the left side primarily. I'm watching him this weekend, and usually there's one thing and then they make adjustments, and then sometimes it becomes another thing, or sometimes they come out of it. Early on, he was taking some big swings, collapse in the backside, sometimes go down on one knee, just a huge swing. Now he's shortened up his swing, but he's late. So they're challenging him with fastballs up in the strike zone, and he can't get to it. He's getting started. So he's getting started late. So the ball's already on him when he's making contact. It's been a little bit of that too. Like it's not like he's not trying. He's like trying to make adjustments. You're not seeing it. And so, I think that's the thing, even with someone like Julio, when he had the struggles, like, okay, I'm going to try this for a while. Okay, that's not working. I try something else. And then before you know, you get away from some of the strengths that you had originally because you were constantly making adjustments. So, I think that those are the kind of the cautionary tales you got to kind of sort through. If you're hitting the ball hard and you're making solid contact, and you got to stay with your approach. Rutschman's kind of had similar type of some of the conversations we had about Julio has been going on with Adley too.
Yeah, it's just and then you see that, and then you see Bobby Witt Jr. just have the season that he's been having. I mean, it's a bright future for so many great players in the American League, young players. But if you were to advise Julio, what would be your advice for Julio going into this offseason? Just in terms of like a preparation or just a different mental approach, physical approach, what would it be?
Well, I think there's got to be some kind of, I don't know if it's play winter ball, because that has its own, potential issues. The Mets, one of their top prospects, played winter ball, and he ended up injuring his knee and missed the entire year this year. His name is Ronnie Mauricio, and he played in the Dominican Winter League. Some guys like to play in that, even if it's for a couple of months, just to keep their timing, to be, to kind of get yourself ahead of others in spring training. To me, it's got to be something like that. If it's in your training regimen, it's go get live pitching a lot earlier than you normally do. Maybe that's in the month of January. In Arizona, it could be something along those lines at the spring training site. But it's got to start, I think, with that kind of because of the fact he's been such a slow starter now in his entire career. There's got to be some kind of change this winter. For him to get to the live pitching so that he can, hit the ground running, in April and May.
Jim, there's no doubt that a change or at least a benefit has been whatever his relationship is with Edgar Martinez. And whatever Edgar is telling him, and it just seems like, hey, let's simplify our approach. Let's kind of block out all the noise. Maybe let's push the analytics to the side here for a second. Let's get back to basics.
Yeah.
See the ball,
I do think,
see the ball, hit the ball. Would it be, I know it's not that simplistic, but would it be wise for him just to spend an off season with him and maybe pivot away from the personal hitting coach in Florida?
So I would absolutely try to go to, even if it's not necessarily the entire winter, but with, Edgar, spending a week at a time with him every month, if I was running the front office, we would send certain guys, hitting coach to go see certain guys, a pitching coach to go see certain guys. Obviously your strength and conditioning, your sports performance, they would go to see certain guys. Certain guys were priorities for whatever reason, right? So his priority is to work on his hitting, and if that means having Edgar go meet him wherever, to go and work on some of these things that they've been working on. I think to simplify his overall approach is 100% what needs to happen. And, I think it's up to the Mariners to kind of give him some veteran leadership support as well, in that lineup. So he doesn't have to feel like this entire offense is centered around him, even though we know that it is. We've talked about JD Martinez before. Guys like that are going to be out there in the free agent market that they could bring in to just help him and take some of the pressure off.
I think when you said that, the person I was thinking of is a guy that's with the Twins right now and they're struggling is Carlos Santana.
Right.
Is that he was just such a great influence for Julio and just that presence. And I think not having him on the team, whether there's much truth to it, I just think that had an effect on him.
Yeah.
And, having somebody, that's in the lineup that can help him a little bit more on and off the field for Julio.
Yeah. Well, I think Santana is another one of those guys that, around the cage, he's a baseball junkie, he's a lifer. The guy knows how to hit, and has a great idea of the strike zone. Those are Martinez is that way. Justin Turner is that way, but, he's 40 years old and, at the end of his career. I think, obviously Edgar and what he had done in his past it's a really good fit too. No one would understand better, the struggles in Seattle,
sure.
And how difficult it is to hit there, all of those things than Edgar. And even though he didn't have a ton of struggles in his career, but I think it's that, it's got to be, a combination of, hitting coach, keeping it simple, working on some of those things, but veteran, presence that, again, Julio's going to go through his struggles just like everyone else is, but there's always someone there, a couple guys there to kind of help pick up the pieces. Listen, Teoscar, if you go look at Teoscar, his impact, Teoscar's had an unbelievable relationship with Ohtani, right? I know he had a ton of strikeouts, but that personality and keeping things loose, I feel like in some ways is missing from that clubhouse.
Well, and I think Suarez too.
Suarez is another great guy, right? I mean, he had such a terrible first half. Arizona benched him. Torey Lovullo benched him, told him that, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And guess what? He made the adjustment. And he's been one of the best second half hitters in the league. Yeah. So, there are guys, they had some guys there, and I think that, that part of it, when you start readjusting the offensive lineup, you tend to forget that there were some positives in some of those lineups that were additions that were, I think, helpful for Julio to have around.
A last thing for you, Jim, the CJ Abrams story.
Oh my goodness.
So they don't like that you're out all night gambling at a casino?
They don't like the fact that he was out. That meant like a lot of their fans who were in town to watch them play in Chicago at Wrigley were at the Now,
was it a bar or a casino? Where was he at?
It was a casino. 8 a.m. Now, listen, he could have been there early for the breakfast buffet, but I mean, they have good buffets there, right? So maybe in fairness, he was that, but I don't think that is the case. And here's the other thing: that wasn't the only time. Like they've had some other issues with him behind the scenes, as we know, and so they haven't really held him accountable before. This is one of those where they did. Now, I know plenty of players that have been out all night and showed up to the ballpark the next day overtime. I don't want to name any names, but plenty. Yeah, please do. Plenty have done that. And well, one guy that my cousin had was Mo Vaughn. Mo Vaughn spent a lot of time. And remember Mo in Boston spent times at some of the bars in Boston, and then my cousin would get a phone call, hey, your first baseman's heading to the ballpark. He came right from such and such a bar. So, but the difference here is Mo had a long-term contract and he couldn't be optioned to the minor leagues. CJ Abrams is not even he's just over 2+ service time years and had options left. And so they sent him to the minor leagues to send him a message. And we'll see if, this gets his attention. But one of those unusual things that happens. And listen, they could have said, nah, we're not going to play you the rest of the year and kept him in the big leagues. It's not going to affect his service time, but it will affect his pocket. He's going to lose about $30,000 easily just this year.
But there's nothing nefarious with gambling or anything.
So, I don't think so. That's the thing that we don't know. I don't know if we have any of those details yet. Obviously being there in a casino isn't doesn't mean he was gambling. Doesn't But
Sure, right.
I do think that there's more to this that we don't know about yet, and I think it'll come out over time. But they have a really good, talented young team, and Abrams was their all-star this year. They need to get him on track. If there's some issues with him being late, showing up late for meetings, which apparently has been a problem as well. This is the time to fix it, because I think they're going to be a team to watch next year, a team on the rise.
You are the best. Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, former Mets and Orioles GM, current host, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM. Tell everyone when that show airs, where they can find you and when.
Yes, on Sirius XM, channel 89, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's Monday through Friday. I have my show, the front office show, on Sundays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. with Jim Bowden. So, we do it 6 days a week at that same channel. And man, oh man, right in the middle of the pennant race. There's so much to talk about. It's been fun. And we were talking about the Mariners today, but they're on life support. But they were still talking about it because of how badly Minnesota and Kansas City are playing right now.
It's just there for them.
It's there.
It's just there for them to just walk. They're just opening the door. They're saying, "Come on, Mariners, walk on through."
Here you go. They're trying to give it to them.
We'll see if they can. Jim joins us every Monday. A few more visits with Jim before it's over. Every Monday, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Again, perfect spot for a date night, guys night, ladies night, large group event. Visit one of their 6 locations across the Northwest at flatstickpub.com. And in case you missed this, you can find it everywhere: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, and of course up at PuckSports.com. Thanks, Jim. We'll talk next week.
Talk to you. See ya.
There he is, Jim Duquette, MLB Network Radio, Sirius XM. Again, find his show Monday through Friday, also there on Sundays. All brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. All right, we're getting close to winding down the show. And again, I want to mention this before. I just tweeted it out. I don't know if you go into the App Store right now, if it's there. I have sent out a link on Twitter. I've sent out a link in the YouTube chat there as well. The Puck Sports mobile app is up and running right now. If I go and I just open up the app right now, hold on, where's she at? That's what it looks like. You can see it. And the glare there of the camera, probably not great. Oh, there we go. And if you just click on that little play button, hold on, you'll hear me. Right, I think. Now, hold on, where's she at? That's what it looks like. You can see it. And the glare there of the. So there it is. The Puck Sports mobile app is up and running. Jacob, nice job, buddy. Great work. So you don't have to just watch us anymore. And you're like, I don't want to watch your ugly face on Twitter or YouTube anymore. I just want to listen to your annoying voice. Okay, point well taken. And if you're just walking around and want us in your little hip pocket, or you're in your car, want to plug it in, you're driving around, we got it for you. It's up and running. All right. Nobody else doing this has got this. Tell you that right now. Nobody else is doing this. We are just, we're everywhere. We're on YouTube. We'll be on that stream. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to do this here on Twitter as well. But now you'll be able to listen to us, the live show, starting at 10 a.m. every single day. If you just can't be able to watch it or don't want to and just want it on in the background, it's available to you. Just hit the play button right there. Go download the app right now in the App Store. It's for Apple right now. I think there's still another hurdle or two for Google Play. So I know for Android users, just give me a second or give us a few days and it should be up and running. But again, let me know if you have any problems and we'll try to work out any of the kinks. If there are any issues, feel free to reach out. Puck at PuckSports.com. But go download the Puck Sports mobile app today in the App Store. All right, we got to get to the Hey What the Puck. It's brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Now, on Friday, Chris Egan took me to task, okay, for my thoughts on the Seattle Mariners.
You told me 2 weeks ago you were rooting against this Mariners team.
Yeah.
Here's my problem, Puck, with this. Why would you be rooting against a team that is only 2 games back for a wild card spot? Why wouldn't we want to celebrate in the streets of Seattle? Why wouldn't we want everybody coming together as one to root on this Mariners team?
We are in an abusive relationship. And you got to make a choice. You want to stay in that abusive relationship or get out? I've decided I'm getting out right now. I'm getting out. Not to say I'm not going to come back because, usually you come back. I'll come back. I'm getting out right now because this year was not supposed to be about going to the final week of the season to get a wild card spot. Now, that last part I still agree with, but I thought about this all weekend, and Chris was right. And I know in my heart of hearts, I never gave up on the team. And I watch the games, and I still want them to win. A lot of me is just, a lot of times I'll just say that because I'm just so angry with sports angry of how they have performed this year. And it just makes me because they're so close. And that pitching staff is so good that if they were to get in the playoffs, there's no telling what they could do. No one is running away with this thing. We talked about it earlier. They shouldn't be scared of the Yankees or anybody else in the American League. And hell, they shouldn't be scared of anybody in the National League, whether that would be the Phillies or the Dodgers or anyone. They can play and beat anybody in baseball with that pitching staff. And I think that's what makes me so angry this year about it. But to hope that they would lose every game. I thought about that Friday and Saturday, and I'm like, God, I'm watching the games, and I don't hope that they lose. I just want them, and I want that organization so bad to realize how good they can be. And I think sometimes that they just don't realize just how good they can be. And I don't want them to waste what is just this unbelievable core of pitchers. And I feel that they have. I feel they have done that. But Egan was right. Thinking back on it, Egan was right. I was being a bad fan. I could be an honest fan, truthful that they pissed me off. That's one thing. Don't root against them, all right? I felt and that bad vibe that was carrying over into the Cougs game on Friday. I was getting so angry at that, lashing out at Janikowski. Don't ever let him kick again. And then he comes back and hits, the biggest field goal of his career. We're all hypocritical. Fans are hypocrites. And so we've talked about that a lot. But Egan, you lashed out at me and you were right. So thank you. You are the, I used to think the gas man was the voice of reason, but I really do think it's you, Chris Egan. All right, that is it for us, the Daily Puck Drop. And Hey, What the Puck is brought to you again by Restoration One in North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of a water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Give them a call at 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. All right, coming up tomorrow, it's a Tuesday, John Canzano will talk college football. There's some news. It appears that Tulane and South Florida and Memphis are staying in the AAC. So now the Pac-12 is going to have to turn their attention to the Utah State, UNLV, Air Force. We'll see. Mountain West is trying to make a big push to keep them. Boy, if that happens, and then you're left with nothing, that would be not good. I prefer this way. Even though Memphis and Tulane would be attractive, I prefer them because then it's not the West Coast Mountain. It's like we're traveling across the country, and it's as stupid as Cal and Stanford and what everybody else is doing. So I actually prefer the UNLV route, and whether you want to call it it's a drummed up better version of the Mountain West, sure. It's a different brand, absolutely, but I prefer that. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Also on a Tuesday, Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. We'll catch up with him, get his thoughts on the Seahawks victory over the Dolphins, looking ahead to the Lions, injury concerns with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. We'll talk a little baseball as well. Again, winding down, Bill Krueger will join us, give his thoughts on the Mariners as the season is coming to a conclusion. All right, that's it for us here on this wonderful day on a Monday. Again, everything will be up later on all the podcast platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast, PuckSports.com, a little around 1 o'clock. We will talk to you tomorrow. As always, promise
no
we better.
Shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to love you. I was born to
lick your face. I was born to rub you, but you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!